everybody. My name is Dexter B. Jenkins, and I want to say I'm super excited to be part of this Juneteenth legacy event. I want to thank J.J. Conway and her team for, first of all, putting this event on and then allowing me to be a part of it. So my assignment in 20 minutes or less is to be able to talk to you about the courage to become a real estate wealth creator. As you guys know, that real estate is a phenomenal tool for building wealth. And so I want to talk to you about how to do that, but then I also want to talk to you more importantly about the courage that it takes to become wealthy. One of the things that I am finding, and I understand this to be true, is that in today's society, you have to decide that you're going to be wealthy. And there are a number of things that are hindering you and I from beginning to do that. You know, I call it programming, and I call that programming really it's almost like a magnetic pull on you that's hindering you from going towards wealth. Now, wealth means different things to different people. You know, you'll have to define your own, you have your own definition of what wealth means to you. You know, for some people, it is a big house. For some people, it is having a Lamborghini or a sports car. For some people, it is wearing a Rolex. And then for others, it's time freedom. For others, it's a lifestyle freedom. But whatever you decide wealth is for you, you've really got to take the time to decide what that is. And then you have to be courageous enough to go for it. And most people don't understand that when you decide to become wealthy, that is a courageous act. You know, when you want to break out of the pack, you want to break out of the so-so lifestyle and decide to become wealthy, that is a courageous act. And as I was saying, I believe there are a number of factors that are hindering us from doing that. And what those factors really act as a magnet. It has a gravitational pull on us to keep us where we are. So let's look at those four things that I just mentioned, that those factors, those gravitational pulls on us that would hinder us from going towards becoming wealthy. And then I'm going to tie in real estate to that at the back end of it. So what are the four? Number one, they're spiritual forces. You know, maybe I'm a senior pastor currently. Maybe you grew up in church like I did, and wickedness, wealth was equated to wickedness in many respects, and poverty was really tied to you being holding, so on and so forth. Or maybe you grew up and you heard Jesus was poor, or you heard scriptures misquoted that money is the root of all evil, which is the love of all money is the root of all evil. 1 Timothy chapter 6 verse 10 talks about that. And so that spiritual programming, that faith program that you may have received that was not the way it needed to be, when you decide that you want to go wealthy, you'll have to fight that. And then maybe it's not spiritual, but maybe, and some of these will be working together as I go through all of them, you'll see in a second. Then some of it could be, in your environment. Maybe you grew up in an environment where everybody lived paycheck to paycheck, or you have more month than money, or matter of fact, money wasn't even talked about. And so in your environment, wealth was not something that was normal, that was natural. Everybody struggled. And so you're breaking out of that. And so one of the things I heard a mentor of mine say, this was years ago, and he said this. He said, it's hard to aspire to what you have not been exposed to. In a lot of cases, we have not been exposed to what it means to be wealthy in our environment. And so that hinders you. And then maybe it's in our culture. Our culture, really, there's this unhidden, this hidden, covert, really hate against people who do well, people who reach their highest financial potential. You hear people talk about tax the rich and all that. And so there's this cultural thing that may be hindering you from going towards your wealth. Or maybe, in our society, if you're a rapper, if you're a ball player, or you're an entertainer, it's okay for them to be wealthy, but it's not okay for you to be wealthy. And then the last one I talk about a lot of times, is financial. You think about the financial advice that, we may have received. So if your house is very much like my house or my environment, sometimes it was like, go to school, get good grades, work hard, and save your money. But then you look at, and all those things are good things to do, but those are not the things that help you to build wealth. In my experience, over 30 years of studying wealth and being in the financial services industry, being a real estate entrepreneur, I found that it's building businesses, it's learning how to invest. Those are the things it's learning how to sell things. Those are the things that help you to build wealth. And in many respects, we were turned away from those things. And so the things that would help us to build wealth, we pushed those things to the side, and we gravitated to the safe. And let me say this to you. The only way you're going to build wealth is by doing the things I just talked about, by you building businesses and by you learning how to invest and you learning how to sell things. That's where wealth comes from. And so when you look at the fact that you have to break out of the pack, you got to break through that, the mental condition that we have, break through that gravitational pull on you to stop you from reaching your highest financial potential. That's what I'm encouraging you to do, because I believe if you're watching this, your desire is to, whatever term you want to use, whether you want to become rich or whether you want to become wealthy, or as I like to say, you want to reach your highest financial potential. That's the first decision you got to make, is you got to decide, you know what, I'm going to be wealthy. Now, how does real estate play in that? Because I said my title was this, the courage to become a real estate wealth creator. Well, real estate comes in this, plays in this because I believe two things. Number one is that real estate is the lowest hanging fruit on the wealth creation tree, because wealth is either acquired or created. And so when it comes to talking about becoming wealthy, when you begin to look at how easy it is, or how simple it is to create wealth on real estate, man, you'll be like, wow, I can't believe I didn't do that before. Many years ago, matter of fact, I still say this. This is just my personal opinion. I believe this. I said, real estate is the lowest hanging fruit on the wealth creation tree. Meaning, you don't even really have to know that much and even know what you're doing to have your wealth increase through this thing called real estate. Many years ago, my kids are adults now, but when they were small, we would go apple picking. And, you always have tree apples that were way up at the top, and then you had the apples that were at the bottom. And, they were like, Dad, pick me up, and I'll pick them up, and they get a high apple. But then they were apples, they didn't need it. They just reached down and grabbed it. And so that's what I believe real estate is that if you really begin to get a sense of how it works, how to make it work for you and your family, it's just the lowest hanging fruit on the wealth creation tree. But then the second reason why I think you should use real estate to build wealth is this. Black and brown people have had a unique relationship with real estate since we were brought here. Think about this. You and I were brought here to work the land, right? And now it's time for us to begin to own it. And then think about on the other side of slavery, where when we were released, we were supposed to get 40 acres and a mule. Well, what they knew was that if they had some land or they had some real estate and they could learn how to monetize it, that was their way to being wealthy. And so I believe that, listen, in the year 2023, we've got to learn how to use real estate as a wealth creation tool, because when we do that, it will allow us to reach our highest financial potential. Now, how do you do that? Now, there are a number of strategies you can use. I'm only going to talk about one. There are some people they fix and flip. So if you watch HGTV, you understand what that is. Or some people lend money out, meaning they don't do anything with the actual property or the asset itself, but they lend money out. And so that's a way you can do it. So there are too many ways to me. That would be a whole other video to even get into. But I want to talk about one strategy in particular, which most people know is called a buy and hold strategy, which simply means this: I buy a piece of real estate and I rent it out. So that it could be a single family home, it could be a duplex, which mean that you got 2 units, it could be 3, it can go as high as, the sky's the limit as to how many units you can get. But I want to talk to you about what I believe, because when it comes to long-term wealth, what I found that in my experience, people who build wealth at real estate, they build it through this buy and hold strategy. So there are really 4 things that you can do, or 4 wealth generators, as I like to call them, of real estate when you buy and hold it. Got it? Now, this is the biggest pushback I get, so lean in on this. The biggest pushback I get is, Dexter, I don't want to be a landlord. And let me say this to you. If you're going to be wealthy because you decide to become wealthy, correct? You've got to take responsibility for your own life. Let me say that one more time. If you're going to become wealthy, you've got to take responsibility for your life. You can't abdicate that out. And when we are not willing to take responsibility, we end up being not reaching our highest potential, in some cases being poor. So I don't want to talk about you not being a landlord. See, we got to begin to think strategically. No, I'm not saying you have to do it forever. There are other ways you can get around that, hire property managers, things of that nature. But the biggest pushback I get is this. I don't want to change toilets. I don't want to have to deal with tenants. We're not talking, see, so there has to be a mind shift thinking that, hey, I'm using this piece of real estate in order to build wealth. I'm not doing this to change choice. I'm not doing this to be a landlord per se, but I'm using this as a tool to build wealth. Now, four ways that you can use real estate to build wealth using the buy and hold strategy. Number one is cash flow. Now, why is cash flow important when it comes to building wealth? Because cash flow is probably the most important word when it comes to finance and business. Because if you got strong cash flow, you can really weather a lot of storms and you're doing well. So one of the things that if you buy right and if you have to rehab it right, now cash flow is what? It's simply the difference between what you have left over after you pay all the bills. So that's your mortgage and insurance. I don't want to get too deep in this, but one of the ways that you build wealth is through this thing called cash flow. And you want to build as many streams of income, as many streams of cash flow as you can. And in one way you can do that is through this thing called real estate. Number two is the second reason why you want to do it is because of this thing called appreciation. Now, appreciation is simply this, meaning I bought a property for this, and now it is worth this. So, there are two types of appreciation. There's something called natural appreciation, meaning that after a while that, because of you hold a property for a while, it just appreciates because you bought it for $200,000, you held it for maybe 2 or 3 years, and it grew to $400,000. That's one of my property. I bought it for, I think we bought it for about $218. Now it's worth about $425. Well, we didn't do anything to it. We just, matter of fact, we didn't even live in it. We rented it out, and as we rented it out, we had our tenants pay the debt, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But it just appreciated. But then there are also ways that you can have this thing called forced appreciation, meaning, well, how do you force appreciation? Well, you force appreciation by, hey, maybe you adding a bedroom onto it. Maybe you add a bathroom or you update the kitchen. Well, what that does is that causes your house to appreciate. Now, appreciation is what I call, like, in some cases, tomorrow money, where cash flow is today money. And so two ways. So you got number one, you got cash flow. You want to have much cash flow coming in as you can. The number two is through this thing called appreciation. What's the third thing? Well, this is a big one. Hold on to your wig for this one. It's this thing called tax benefits. Now, if I were in the room with you, I would say, how many of y'all like to, or hold your hand, or how many of y'all like to pay taxes? And everybody would be like, boo. Nobody's a big fan of paying taxes. Let me say this to you. Real estate has phenomenal tax benefits. And matter of fact, one of the ways that wealthy people offset their income that comes in is they buy taxes. They buy real estate. Now, I'm gonna give you an assignment. The main thing that you can write off on your taxes. So it's the interest that you pay. So now, as of now, because tax laws change, but as of now, in many respects, you can write off the interest that you pay on your loans. And then you can write off the property taxes. So I don't want to get too deep in it, but there are a lot of things. But then there's also this thing called depreciation. So there are a lot of different ways to save on your tax bill through this thing called real estate. And then the fourth one is this thing called debt pay down. Now, why is debt pay down so important? Well, debt pay down is so powerful because, meaning this, as you're making, now this only happens if you took it out and paid debt on it. If you have a mortgage on that, if you pay straight up cash flow, you don't have a debt on it. But if you did, meaning this, every month that a payment is being made, guess what? Your principal is being reduced, right? So now, just say this. Now, say you've rented this property out, correct? You've rented the property out. Somebody else is paying down the principal on it. You're not living there, and so you're enjoying all the benefits I mentioned. So you're enjoying the what? The cash flow. You're enjoying the property what? Appreciating. You're enjoying the what? The tax benefits of it. And then what? Your debt is being paid down. So when you combine those four things, let's say one more time. What is it? Number one is cash flow. Number two is appreciation. Number three is what? The tax benefits. And then number four is the debt paid out. And when you put those four things together inside of a buy and hold strategy, it's a phenomenal way for you to build wealth. Now, I will say this to you. You're probably going to have to learn how to do some things, but as I said a few seconds ago, what? You and I have to take what? Responsibility for our financial future. We can't give it off to the government. We can't give that off to our boss. We can't give that off to anybody else. We've got to take responsibility for that. And so one of the ways that you're going to have to do that is you're going to have to educate yourself. let me say this to you. I've been on this educational path, or like I said, over 3 decades around learning how money works and how to build wealth and so on and so forth. And real estate, I've grown up and watched my dad own properties and things. So I've been around it a long time and continue to further my education. So you're going to have to do the same thing. So I'm encouraging you, hey, listen, don't be afraid to learn something new. If someone else has learned it, so can you. So that really concludes what I want to talk to you about. So I'm encouraging you to do what? I'm encouraging you to, first of all, make the decision that you want to become wealthy. And then number 2, I want you to begin to use real estate as a wealth creation tool for you and your family. Hey, I've enjoyed spending the few minutes that we've had with you, and I want to leave you with this. If you want to stay in contact with me, go on over to DexterBJenkins.com, DexterBJenkins.com, and what I have over there is a number of financial resources that will help you to do 2 things. Number 1, raise your level of financial intelligence, and then number 2, it will help you become more literate in this thing called real estate. And just for you going over to my website, in both the header and the footer, I have a free ebook that I give out to people that I call the 3 Ships of Wealth Building, which I call the secret sauce to learn how to build wealth. You smash that green button, I will get that book out to you. So that's one thing I want you to do. But then another thing I want you to do is, if you want to stay in contact with me through social media, I'm Dexter B. Jenkins across everything. So whether it's YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, I'm Dexter B. Jenkins. So I would love to stay in contact with you that way. But I really love to hang out on LinkedIn. And so if you just had to hit one, I would say follow me on LinkedIn, and we can develop a relationship right there. So again, thank you guys. Be blessed, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.